Hello, and welcome once again to the panel discussion on artificial intelligence transforming industries landscape. I would first like to welcome our moderator for the session, Mr. Rahul Prasad, the co-founder and CTO of Bobble AI. And now, welcoming our panelists, we have with us Professor V. Kamakoti, the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, IIT Madras, Mr. Jeet Singh, Global Business Head, AI Tech Mahindra, Mr. Amardeep Sibia, founder and CEO, Drishya AI Labs, Ms. Preetha Vasanji, the Managing Director, India, Doceree. Welcome all of you. Dear delegates, please keep on asking your questions in the chat box. The panel may pick up a few and answer to you at the end. Over to you, Mr. Prasad.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Cool. Thanks for having me, Swati. I'm Rahul Prasad, founder and CTO of Bobble AI. Bobble AI is the largest conversation media platform, and we are known for our flagship product, Bobble Keyboard and Mint Keyboard, which is the default keyboard in all Xiaomi phones, which is sold in India. So artificial intelligence is the core of Bobble. We are called Bobble AI. We provide value to our users by making their conversation smarter, easier, and fun. We use cutting edge AI to achieve that. And for brands, we provide them opportunity to become the part of the conversation. The brands have not been able to leverage the word of mouth till now, but with us, they can do so. We call it Conversation Media Platform, CMM. So that's a brief introduction of Bobble. I would like to invite Dr. Professor Kamakoti sir for an introduction.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So thank you, Rahul, and thanks for this opportunity to be part of this very interesting panel. So the important aspect today is when we look at industry adoption, specifically looking at how AI can do a digital transformation, something out of the world in the industry. It is the first thing that comes to mind is the industry preparedness, which is going to play a major role in the adoption of AI by the industry. Industry preparedness starts from understanding where AI can help them and preparing themselves specifically in form of collecting, retrieving, storing, clean data, sensing and storing clean data, and then also looking at certain feasible solutions that AI can offer. What is possible about AI? What is not possible with AI? Having an understanding of that, how can they actually make such decisions which can help? And the last one is, of course, the capacity building within the organization. And all these things require a significant amount of investment also. And so when they have to invest money, then they should also have a sort of belief that AI can do this transformation. And these are some of the very important points that come up when we look at AI as a digital transformation paradigm, specifically in sort of industry that has been traditionally working, of course, with automation, but not with a digital intervention. So these are my very initial comments, Rahul, and I look for an active discussion with the panel.
Thanks for the introduction, sir. I would like to invite Preetha next for a brief introduction.
You are muted.
Am I audible now? Yeah, great. Thank you, Rahul, for inviting. And I think the topic of discussion today is extremely interesting. It's a step towards where the future is. So a little bit about myself. I am Preetha Vasanji. I primarily lead Doceree India operations. I am the MD. And primarily, a little bit about Doceree. So we're the first global network of physicians only platform for programmatic marketing. So what we primarily do is aggregate physician platforms across the globe, not only in India but across the globe, and kind of create a conduit for marketeers to be reaching out to physicians in an efficient manner. So, yep, I think with that, I would like to, participate a little later after the round of introductions are done and talk more about its application and outcomes. Thank you.
Thanks, Pratha. Thanks for the introduction. Next, I would like to invite Amardeep.
Good
Amardeep,
afternoon to it. Can you hear me?
Yes,
yes,
yes.
sir.
Okay, sure. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Amardeep, the founder and CEO of Drishya AI. We are an AI company headquartered out of Calgary and having a center of excellence in Bangalore. And we are developing AI solutions for the digital oil field, or essentially the energy sector. And today, the topic that we are discussing on digital transformation in industries is pertinent. It's global, and it can have groundbreaking, it can deliver groundbreaking value to traditional as well as modern and upcoming industries, and actually help, especially when in the sector that we are working in, the energy, which also has a major impact in terms of climate change. It can actually deliver groundbreaking and enabling value and speed up that transition in a very important sector that's going to impact us and our families for decades to come. So I look forward to this discussion as it evolves.
Hello.
Uh,
Thanks, Amardeep. I think somewhere in between, the voice was breaking.
Yeah, Rahul, we could hear clearly. Maybe, might be a bit of a network issue, but that's a reality of the world we live in nowadays.
yeah.
And these technical glitches are, par for the course.
Right. Thanks, Amardeep. So I'd like to invite Jeet for a brief introduction.
Thanks, Rahul. And thank you for the opportunity to speak to everyone here. Hi, my name is Jeet Singh. I'm the Global Business Head of AI for Tech Mahindra. Tech Mahindra is one of the largest digital transformation companies based out of India. And we're a global digital transformation player. So we are working with 1,000 plus customers and growing across all the verticals, pretty much all industry verticals. And our mission is we're helping our clients to imagine, build, and run an AI-enabled enterprise. That's what the mission of the team is, and I think this topic is very close to our heart because that's pretty much what we do. And over the course of this discussion, I'm happy to discuss with this panel about what an AI-enabled enterprise really means and how the solution provider ecosystem that some of us represent here, along with the research that academia brings, how do we bring all of that together and help the overall client ecosystem, all the industries that exist globally, to get to an AI-enabled enterprise. And back home we have a joke that we very soon want to change that tagline to imagine, build, and run an AI native enterprise. But yeah, baby steps. So we're starting with an AI enabled enterprise. Happy to be here. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Jeet. So all of us are from different industries and are working on different fields. So let's talk about what are the industry's perspective on AI. Jeet, would you like to share your perspective on today's AI's role in today's industry.
Yeah, sure. I can do that. I think before we get to the perspective, I think let's look at globally or factually what's happened. Okay, why is everyone talking about AI right now? And I think it's um, it's a Goldilocks moment. It is if some of you like reading, there's the universe conspiring. You have all of these phrases, but what it essentially means is that we're at a point in time when three mega trends have converged. Okay, you've got data, which is, and we've all been talking about data for the past decade, but you've got a certain maturity, understanding of data now. You've got a computing power that can process that data, and you've got algorithmic advancements that can really use that data to get insights and predictions and stuff like that, right? So I think uh, right now that's the Goldilocks moment, and that's the reality. That's why everybody is interested in AI and believes that this is the right time of it. In terms of perspectives, I think I would look at perspectives in two ways. So there is the perspective of the the solution provider ecosystem. So Amardeep, Preetha, myself, you as well, Rahul, we're providing AI solutions. And I think from our perspective, and I'm sure this will resonate with the others, to us, there's a term or a phrase being bandied about. It was earlier data is the new oil. The new phrase is AI is the new electricity. And what that means is AI has the power to kind of transform pretty much every industry, every business, and every function in that business, right? So I think from our perspective, the scope and the impact is phenomenal. However, it's a journey, and it's not a destination you can get to very quickly. I think there is also the perspective of the industries themselves. So if you look at the users, right, and over there, I think there is a continuum on understanding of AI. And I like to say that, on one end, you have clients who think AI is a silver bullet. It will somehow magically solve all the problems. And people think all the science fiction movies that we saw growing up, which was primarily AGI, and we're nowhere there. But people think it's either a silver bullet and have moonshot aspirations and get disappointed, or they think it's snake oil, and it's all hype, and it's a very narrow application, and people are just hyping it up, etc. So I think that's the continuum we see in the marketplace, and organizations like ours, and I'm sure Amardeep and Preetha do this. We try to handhold our clients and advise them to get their expectation and their perspective tempered within the realms of possibility, practicality, usefulness, all of that. So those are the two perspectives. We have a perspective of, this is really great, but we've got to be slow and steady, and it's going to get us to, it's going to get us to a 10x improved end state, but it's going to be a journey. And what we're seeing with clients is they either imagine 100x or they think it's hype, and we're all on that journey of traversing that slope together.
So Jeet, you said it's like a magic. I'm sure many of us have already used artificial intelligence in our life. So we say something to Alexa, and then Alexa does it for us.
Absolutely.
So can this is for Amardeep. Amardeep, can you explain how the magic of artificial intelligence works in non-technical terms?
Okay. Okay, so let's try to answer this. Okay, so in the simplest terms, the, the way we explain AI is that it understands context, and context in two terms, two ways. One context, it understands the way, and it's trying to mimic the way humans react. So Siri, self-driving car, they understand the human context and is trying to behave like a human. Or the second context is where AI can take in a huge amount of data, understand how the differences are, how the small nuances are different, and then give those specific non-linear answers. So there are only two ways to look at it that way. So yes, AI is a huge amount of data. Jeet said algorithms. I'll say massive. Advances in neural networks, but literally it is that understanding that context. So you will see this context appear in many ways, like Siri, as I said, like self-driving car, like chatbots, the control systems in drones, whatnot. But ultimately, it is that ability of the system to behave and react to the environment and a continuously changing environment. And so that's the way I would address that. Jeet mentioned, so let's take an example. Jeet mentioned AI is the new electricity. So I'll take an example from that world of electricity. um, the way if you look at electricity, say 5 years back, okay, they were major power stations. They were sending electrons to your home, and you were sending money back to the supplier. Okay, now today what's happening? You have generators of electricity coming up inside the homes in terms of solar panels. It can be storage systems that are sitting over there that can now start to provide power as and when required. Okay, so if you look at that, just think if you have to now with all of this distributed, electricity sources and demand which can be mobile. If you look at an EV, which can be a 30 kilowatt, okay, which is more than five homes together, and that kind of moves from one place to another place, and the demand is moving. Okay, and now you want to do demand planning and supply planning. It's going to be impossible. But without AI, that is now becoming extremely difficult to address. Okay, but that is the power of AI, where it can take these massively shifting things and actually give you and assist you in reacting to new things. And when I'm saying reacting to new things, now I talked about an electricity grid that's completely changing. You have not even seen the data. So there is this aspect earlier that you have to have a lot of data. Okay, yes, you have to have historic data, but today AI can also help mimic and generate new data against which you can actually build the next generation systems. So to that extent, AI will become that massive enabler that electricity has become, and will enable that transformation, many multifold. Uh, and when I'm talking about that, I'll take a slightly different example, okay, which was not imaginable without AI. If you've seen the SpaceX rockets that land, right, those things used to crash into the sea. Now those things come land on a drone ship, okay, and it is the rocket landing back is an inherently unstable platform, right? But the AI can calculate, make those minute calculations that would have been impossible for a human controller to control, and it's able to do and deliver that kind of value. So from that perspective, it is that transformational. Okay, and if I were to take this into the industrial space, what we are talking today, okay, um, if we look at industries, the industries have been generating a lot of data for a long time, right? They have been evolving. They have been going into automation. Okay, so if you look at a modern car manufacturing plant. Okay, the number of people it deploys is a small fraction of what could have been deployed 10 years back, because it's highly automated with robotics already deployed, massive amount of personalization that already goes in. Okay, so what I mean by that, let's say if you place an order for a highly customized car, okay, I want this particular seat with that particular, uh, say, as accessory. Those are not aftermarket parts anymore. Those are all being done directly on the assembly line. Okay, so it is the other aspect of AI is that it's now able to give you that highly personalized, high degree of personalization in an extremely industrial or a very traditional industrial manner. Certainly, it leverages sensors, it leverages data, it leverages automation, it leverages all of those things. But that's the other power, the power to give you highly personalized outcomes. So, we can discuss this a little further, and I think Preetha will get into that from her medical, healthcare side of thing, where it's highly personalized. Over to you.
Cool. So now that we know how AI works, let's talk about how to start using it. If there's an organization, a company wants to start using AI, what to do next? Like, what should we think about how to approach this problem and how to solve it? So, anyone would like to take this question?
Perhaps I could give a cut to the health space, and I think Professor Kamakoti would be best situated to talk about how organizations could look at AI, adopt it, and kind of make the most of this particular aspect. But if I were to take a cut on healthcare, I think AI is one zone, where healthcare has possibly utilized in every aspect. Yeah, whether it is from diagnosing to treating, to whether it is patient management to patient outcomes. I think the spectrum is huge there. And I would assume, and I may just take the liberty to put it out here, that it's possibly one of the fastest growing sectors where AI application is, reached to a pretty mature stage, I would say, across. We're still, of course, in India taking baby steps, but a fair amount of it is happening, yeah, from robotic surgeries. Starting from there, something that started off in India, I would assume about a decade ago, we're going pretty strong. And of course, with all the initiatives by the government to try to bring in health related data and try to bring in digital transformation, I think there's so much more of application that can happen in this space for overall health outcomes. And if you look at AI in marketing in the healthcare space, that becomes another subset, which today, it's working extremely well. It's becoming a far more efficient way. And in a sense, it also has long-term impacts for organizations to grow, to build, and to ensure that businesses are also able to flourish. What do I mean by that is, if you look at what the Doceree, the way it kind of operates, we're trying to help marketeers in the pharmaceutical, in the healthcare space, in the wellness space, the device companies, be able to reach out to physicians, and understand physicians basis interest, basis domain expertise, basis so many other factors, and try and see how do you reach out to them in a more precise manner, so that every buck that you are spending to talk to a physician and to engage with him is a far more optimized way rather than a carpet bombing. And I think that's the technology that we are trying to bring into marketing, is with the patented technology called as Espion, where it's all about trying to identify the physician in the digital space and enabling marketeers to have conversations with physicians way more efficiently and effectively. You know, while it may seem a very linear process there, the outcomes of it are multi-pronged. Yeah, one is the fact that over a period of time, it makes it more efficient. It helps you, of course, grow business, and it's the chicken and egg story, which I believe Jeet is anyway going to talk about in a short while on, saying that it doesn't immediately help you in reducing the costs, but over a period of time, AI will enable you to become way more efficient, and therefore it's all about the revenues and the incremental enhancements that we are able to bring in uh, to industries, to different industries. But having said that, there's always a starting point. Yeah, AI just doesn't happen like that. I think that's something that Jeet spoke about earlier as well. Yeah, there has to be an initial investment to move in this direction, to be able to make an impact, and it is going to take its time, to be able to start showcasing what it can do, and those efficiencies will be able to be seen only over a period of time. And I think that's the intent, and that's what we are doing at Docare, trying to help marketeers, what do I say, bring in some sense into the ROIs that they are looking at, and that's the perspective that we are coming from. So yes, I think that's the cut that I'd like to share. Over to Professor Kamakoti to further add to how AI could be utilized across industries, and especially companies who are keen to kind of get started in this space.
Absolutely. I think health is a very interesting case study because health carries the most sensitive data, right? So if a data about, say, some engine is there, right, it's only about a company, probably some IP of that company. But if you talk about health, right, I think it has the most sensitive data, and managing that data and trying to get something out of it is also going to be very, very strict norms need to be followed in this. Strict compliance has to be there with first the data, which is going to enable this. The second thing is the cost of misprediction in medicine is quite high, right? For example, let us take with weather prediction, right? Suppose say rains, it doesn't rain today, nothing happens. But suppose they say there is a disease and there is no disease, or there is no disease and there is a disease. Both of this can lead to a big complication with respect to, and it can basically even kill the system. Saying you can have thousands of correct prediction, but one misprediction can be essentially throw the system out, saying it is useless. So that's a very big challenge, especially in health, because the cost of misprediction is also high. AI has been if you look at the growth of AI adoption in the industry, specifically when the cost of misprediction is high, that is where AI has been extremely cautious also. There explainable AI has to come, and so many issues have to come. For example, this is a very interesting thought-provoking question that I'd like to put. Suppose there is a driverless car that is going to be announced by a company, right? What would be the insurance policy for that, right? Suppose that car goes and hits somebody, who will the software be responsible, hardware be responsible? What is it? Now you go and sue the driver, but then what is it that can happen there? So these are some very interesting questions from an explainability point of view. Now coming to the specific point of enabling the industry to do this, one thing is all these awareness, right from and especially the SME. If you look at any large scale AI-based solution, finally AI will be only 5%. The remaining 95% actually comes in making that AI work on a real scenario. I would like to point to the viewers a book called Deep Thinking by Kasparov. He's when he lost to the IBM, right? So he walked into a room and there were 30 computers and he was able to play because everything was on the screen. The state of the the chessboard was known to the system, and just it was implementing the rules, pushing the graphics here and there. The vice versa, let 30 Kasparovs sit in a room and one computer or robo move and play the game. Then the real impossibility comes there, right? So because there's image processing involved, the robo has to position itself, look at it, pick the coin, keep it, move it, not topple the board, right? So there's so much of mechatronics and image and processing, all these things will happen when the other way around, right? So The real systems that you look, other than these chess playing, game playing, and other things, the real systems that you look are going to be on the other side, right? Where there's going to be a lot of practical on-ground implementation need to be done to make that AI useful, right? And that is also a very big thing that the industry has to make themselves ready. And the most important gap, as I mentioned in my first introductory remark, is capacity building. Today, there are n amount of AI techniques today. There are there's deep learning, there's supervised learning, reinforcement learning. There's so many things like that. Long short term memory, LSTM model. So many models, so many neural networks, and so many stuffs have come. And now, which technique will work for what itself is a sort of a prescription, like how a doctor looks at a disease and gives a prescription. The capacity building should be to that level where, okay, this data, this technique, this will work, this will not work. Even that level of decision making has to be there. And the last one is about the investment, right? To get all this, we need very clean data. Storage has to be there of data. Then a very, very clear understanding of the data should be there. Large scale data analytics to be done. So there's a lot amount of expertise, and the subject matter expert should understand the data, should appreciate data. Otherwise, again, this goes in for a toss. So overall, these are the bigger challenges the industry has to. So as a starting point, first data, clean data, how do they collect it? Train SMEs, subject matter experts, say industry 4 people on data analytics, data visualization, appreciating data, and some amount of AI. And then recruit AI people, which the SMEs can guide and say and express the problem so that the AI people can basically come out and solve the problem. So these are the gradual steps. And this is my view on it. Thank you.
Sorry, if I could just sorry, Amardeep.
So I was just going to add something to what Professor said, and take the use case of how we build this capacity. Okay, so I'll give an example. We built a system which so if you look at industries, any major industrial plant has got loads and loads and loads of industrial drawings. Okay, so we built a system that uses computer vision, NLP, relationship modeling, etc., to basically build a digital model or a digital twin of the plant. But in order to do that, from a capacity point of view within ourselves, right? So one, in terms of data, when you talk about data in AI, what you actually need is annotated data. So we've actually had to put in capacity of a team of annotators who are annotating that data. Okay, but then on top of it, yes, we got massive amount of data from the industry, but then for AI, that annotated data is there. Okay, now what happens is there's annotators that humans, they're making mistakes. So now we've deployed other algorithms to catch those mistakes and clean that data. Okay, so that's the next part of it, right? And that's even before any of our data scientists or AI engineers actually came and did anything. Okay, so from a capacity point of view, right, it is important to understand, yes, we talk about data, but literally, right, the requirement is that annotated data. And secondly, when we're talking about specifically wide-ranging solutions for across industry solutions, the data has to be, or original data has to be contributed by multiple players. So in our case, the drawings have been given to us by multiple, oil and gas companies. So that is led to you not having what's called like, what do you call, overfitting of the data to a single client, right? So it is that these are two things without which uh, algorithms can be there, but the value can't be delivered. But I thought I'll share this as a use case to just add to Professor's point.
Yeah. Also, I think, if to just look at what Professor Kamakoti and Amardeep said, right? I would say take it even a step further back. And the way we work with clients usually, when to your original question about how do you start thinking about AI and how do you build capacity? I think the best way is to start with saying, you know, as an organization, what are the, um, strategic imperatives that you're targeting, right? So if I'm a consumer focused company, customer experience is very important to me, right? So when we're talking to our clients, we're saying, right, if customer experience is, you want to improve customer experience, we start from there. And then we start looking at which are all the touch points on which customer experience can be improved. And then we look at each one of those processes and say, this is the process that used to happen earlier, but with all of these digital technologies, how does that process become AI enabled or AI native? And how does that make it better? So I think when you start with trying to solve a business problem, and then go to, which are the possible ways in which you can solve it, we then should go into, and then I think it connects to what has been said about how do you prepare the data. A very interesting point that Amardeep raised on annotation, and I think this is something close home to Preetha as well. So, one of the things, let's look at practically one of the objectives that we as a community and as a society of mankind are trying to solve. We're faced with this huge medical crisis, okay? And before this, the panelists were just catching up, and we were talking about which cities we're in, and how there's this huge crunch of, medical bandwidth, medical professionals bandwidth, right? Now, one of the use cases, which is on diagnosis that Preetha was mentioning earlier, is, how do you get a machine using computer vision to look at X-rays and detect tumors from X-ray? Today, you need a medical professional to look at it, but can you train a computer to diagnose that? And what is very important, to what Professor Kamakoti said earlier, has to be very, very accurate. Okay, this is not something of saying, "Hey, sorry, I did a meter reading and it was wrong by a little bit. Sorry about that." Right? So it has to be very highly accurate. High accuracy in AI means better training and more data, right? Now, that brings us to a classical problem of annotation in the healthcare field, because unlike other areas, if I'm just giving you a very simplistic example, if I want to identify cat pictures from a lot of them, from a lot of pictures, I can have any person say, go and label every picture that is of a cat, and then we will teach the computer to recognize cat pictures. But when you're detecting tumors from an X-ray, that annotation of whether it is that patch is a tumor or not has to be done by a medical professional, a doctor. And then you're talking about one bandwidth, you're talking about a huge expense as well to have a team of doctors go and do this. However, that's where technology again, and that's why it's a journey. So we've come up with a problem, and then there are companies, and we work with a company out of Stanford Labs, where we are going to our clients and offering a programmatic annotation solution, so that reduces the bandwidth and reduces the time to get your model in. So I think, in terms of the journey of how you adopt, okay, it's a long winding road, and there are speed bumps and speed breakers along the way. But I think the best way to start with is the destination. What are we trying to get to? Are we trying to improve customer experience, employee experience? Do we want to increase revenue? Whatever is that business objective, and then break it down almost to milestones or rest stops that we have along that journey. And every time these speed breakers come, be rest assured that the ingenuity of mankind will figure out a solution, and we will be on our merry way.
So, I'll talk about a very different type of annotation. okay, in the industry. Okay, so you have, especially when you're looking at historical data, it's basically data from machines, data from processors, data from compressors, all that. Okay. Now, what becomes difficult to annotate is how do you now look at the history from data that's been streaming for you know days at an end, months at an end, and say what happened at that time. Okay, so you can't even and that is one of the big challenges to help say industries gain efficiency and optimizing their processes. Okay, and I think there is massive area for innovation in those areas. So if I were to, let's say, what I mean by that, let's say we are working on problem of energy efficiency in a heavy industry. Okay, say a steel plant. Okay, now it it may look simple, but a steel plant will consume huge amount of energy. Sometimes even a few percentages that you save over there is enough to power a small city. Okay, so the outcome, it can be massive, but the challenge will come up is how do you, in a complicated scenario or a complicated setup like a steel plant, how do you actually look at the old data and annotate it? And massive area for innovation or opportunity for innovation is there in those kind of scenarios. Okay, and the reason why I say is if we look forward a few years, okay, as I mentioned in terms of climate change, etc. Okay, climate change is occurring in terms of what the nation would need, even from power point of view, is going to be of I won't say exponentially, but at least a few times more power. Okay, and that is going to have a impact to the nation, and in those areas, okay, for us to even move forward, we'll need technologies like AI to actually help address these questions. Okay, and I would love to hear Professor Kamakoti's views on how you can actually bring AI into something as core as that.
Yeah, so thank you. That's a very interesting question. So if I could uh, rephrase your question, um, uh, well, the basic steps remains the same as I could understand in this whole framework. The basic understanding of AI essentially is the education of SME. See, for example, one interesting uh, pointer that I can throw out now is the national mission on cyber physical systems that has been introduced by the government of India, by the Department of Science and Technology. Uh, uh, 27 academic institutions have been asked to open up Section 8 companies, basically to translate their product into translate the research into products. Now, one of the important things that we see in this overall framework is suppose I look at some system, like let us go back to health itself. We have people who are working on very good, sensors that could be wearables that could be put on human body to characterize and get the clean data, etc. We have a lot of people who are working on, how to collect the data, aggregate it, and then some sort of, do some edge level decision making, etc. We also have people working on multiple aspects of vision processing, etc. Because if the data that is going to be collected is an image, then how do we process that and take it forward? But what is lagging is that how all of them come together. For example, suppose I take a simple eye screening, right? So how do I collect the data from the from a patient to actually bringing it to a cloud, making a learning engine there, and then trying to get the learning engine predict, say, things like some diabetic retinopathy or some complex things, not just cataract there, but much more complex things there. So in this entire process, there are multiple technology. One thing is doctors are needed, but then there are multiple technology interventions that are needed. And so one of the important things that we need to look at is to bring in all these expertise and see how they can work together. And how do we compose these expertise to make an end product? And that is the biggest gap, in my opinion, which when filled up, will address all type of bigger concerns today. So people actually work in silos, and there are excellent solutions when we look at in a individual, but when they are all put together, we are yet to see how they will fare together. And that, in my opinion, is the biggest activity that we need to start off. If really AI or 4G or 5G or other technologies that we are introducing, if they really want to be a transformative technology for the country, both from an economic perspective and also from a ease of living or whatever, good for all type of technology. I think that is the biggest gap that we need to address, and if that is addressed, I think we are good to go. So this is my view. Probably I don't know whether how much I answered your question, but this is what has come into my mind.
Good. So we have only a few minutes left. So Pratha, would you like to share how AI can save cost for an organization?
Yeah. Uh, so like I mentioned earlier, I think it's myopic to look at cost upfront. It's a journey. Yeah, it's clearly a journey. Yeah, and it, like I mentioned earlier, it's a chicken and egg story as well. Where do you begin, right? I mean, you're talking about saving costs, but at the same time, uh, how do you do that? Yeah, if you want an AI engine to kick in and start giving you results, one has to invest. So I think the intent of, first of all, understanding what is AI, because AI is not something that can be purchased, put in there. It's a lot of effort that goes into it. You got so much data, you got to make sense out of it. There has to be a certain algorithm that one can derive out of. There's a process to kind of ensure that your plain data, there's application of AI, and then it gets turned into something more meaningful for either a patient or a physician or whoever the recipient is, depending on the industry that we are operating. So in that sense, I think, like, it's a journey. One needs to kind of be at it and look at it as a way to improve outcomes. Yeah, now the outcome could be a business, the outcome could be patient's health, the outcome could be improving efficiencies at a physician level. So I would say that it is not so easy to be looking at profit and loss when it comes to AI, but it's more from a paradigm of saying that how am I going to get impacted, how is it going to help me grow my business. And I can look at it as a revenue enhancer, I can look at it as a way to make a particular aspect more efficient. So in that sense, I think there are multiple ways in the way one you could dissect a cat. It's not so linear. Okay, and it's one of possibly the outcomes. So typically another way we put our business framework is that if you look at a drug discovery, typically today I think it's estimated that to discover, with all the R&D, it takes about 2 to 3 billion dollars to kind of eventually arrive at a drug. And of course, we've seen the importance of R&D in the current times with the vaccine and the kind of time frame it takes, etc. Now, if you slowly start decoding where is this cost, of 2 to 3 billion dollars being spent, and what all are the other subsets of it, marketing alone accounts to about 25% of it. Yeah. So if you kind of go down the funnel and start seeing that if marketing is contributing to about 25%, and if you are trying to improve efficiencies out there over a period of time, you're really impacting to reduce the cost of a drug, at the end of the day. And then of course the benefit is passed on to the patients. So it really depends, at what level you are able to make an impact, but it's a journey. It is long term. There's nothing short, and there's no trick, to kind of ensure that you apply AI and reduce costs. So I think over a period of time, certain economies would kind of set in and help you as one of the outcomes, but it's definitely not a starting point and it's not immediate.
Yeah, I mean, just let me sum that up in a minute with, and this is a question I'm asked every day, and I've summed it up by saying you need to look at it as a protect, profit, and prosper paradigm. When I talk to my clients, saying to protect your business, okay, forget about saving cost. This is such a disruptive technology that uh, to protect your business and stay relevant, you should be adopting AI today, actually yesterday. And then you need to look at profitability, and it will come, it will help profitability. Cost saving is something that you will start seeing. But like Preetha said, the long term, because it's that journey, and I was talking about that destination, the destination is prosper. We at our company talk about the run, change, and grow paradigm, which you also call in AI world, the protect, profit, and prosper campaign. You should look at this technology as something which will grow your business 10x and definitely help on profitability. But as businessmen, as industrialists, everyone wants to grow their business, and this is a technology that will help you do that.
I will I will add a slightly different tinge to it. In the world that I'm working in, the oil and gas, we say it will also help you first survive, especially the onslaught of renewables. So in many cases, it can be transformational that if you don't adopt this, you may not even survive.
That's
Yeah, which is
great
where we
point.
started, right? Protect your business, then profit, and then prosper. Absolutely.
It will not just save cost, it will help to generate revenue, and in the long term, it will help to protect your business as well. All you have to do is start collecting data in a well formatted way so that it can be used later on by AI experts to create a model which you can use to predict and update your business accordingly. Thanks. That's we are out of time. I would like to thank everyone. Thanks, Jeet. Thanks, Amardeep. Thanks, Preetha. And thanks, Professor Kamakoti, sir.
Well, thank you so very
Over to
much
you.
for such an amazing discussion. Well, I would like to thank our partners, Accenture, Automation Anywhere, Root Mobile, Tata Teleservices, and PwC. So thank you so very much for this interesting and a superb discussion. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Thank you, and stay safe, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.